The attraction to a student-run organization like the rugby club was from the very beginning. We learned that rugby was kind of the on the outside, and we liked that. There was a certain esprit de corps about being sort of not conventional. The structure though was very solid. There was a team of officers that ran the club, and there was a team of captains that actually ran the play in the field. So it was, and you learned. Most everybody, there are a couple of exceptions, but most everybody had never played rugby before they walked onto that field. It was unconventional, but it was very organized. When we were juniors, I think we had 90 freshmen show up in the fall for the first day of practice, and organizing 90 freshmen that had never played rugby before, and we kept, I would say we kept over half of them through the season, and on into the next year. You had to sort of really be organized. The club had a history of tours. Of course, looking back on the 50 years. I don't think we realized that we were in the first decade of the history of the club. It felt like it was a much more grounded, organized group when we were playing. There had been several tours in the years prior to our trip. Of course, England and Wales are solid rugby country. So there had been several trips to the Caribbean, and we decided our class, which was was a large class, both in terms of the size of the class and the size of the number of guys who played rugby. Kind of was always trying to one-up the classes ahead of us. So they'd gone to Bermuda and the Caribbean, and so we said, well, we're going to go to Europe. And none of us had ever been to Europe before. We had no idea what we're getting into. So we organized and I think not knowing what we were getting into actually helped, because if we had actually known what we were getting into, it would have scared us away. And because we were a club sport and didn't have the supervision of the athletic department, they didn't really understand what we were doing until after we were doing it, and so they were the oversight was rather lax, and I think if they had understood exactly what we were doing, they wouldn't have allowed it to happen either. Because we basically went to, I don't remember how many guys went, but we had at least 2 full sides plus, so maybe 50 or 60 guys went on the trip, and we organized it all ourselves, and no chaperones. There was nobody above the age of 21 on the trip with us. So, one story: we had a bus and a couple of rent-a-cars, and because we didn't all fit in the bus, and when we actually got to London, and we checked in and we got going, we actually all fit into the bus eventually, but one of the cars that we had rented actually disappeared, and I thought it had been stolen. I thought for sure it had been stolen, and I thought this was, we were going to hear from this. And when we got back to London after being in Wales, we realized it had been towed, and the rental company had been looking for us for 2 weeks. But so that was a relief. But and it was from a discipline point of view, there were not a lot of problems. Everybody behaved themselves within reason, and we did pretty well on the field. I think we surprised our opponents. As I remembered, it was early spring, so the weather in England and Wales was particularly cold and damp, just like it is now, even more raw. But the ground was really wet and soggy. But the warm ginger beer that they served after a match, shanty, and it was the first time we'd actually ever seen one of these huge, big tubs, no showers, just these big tubs that you
big hot
soaked in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it wasn't health department approved, but it took care of the sore muscles.
Right.